A little bit about me. I like to cover my background. So for those of you who are new and kind of how I got into this and about me. So my background was in corporate marketing for over 12 years. And so I managed teams of people. And so my job was pretty demanding. It's stressful. I had a lot of late hours, but I will say part of that was my own boundary issues. So we'll talk about boundaries on Friday if you want to join about that. But I have since learned better ways to manage my stress, but back then did not do a good job. So I ended up suffering from a lot of stress related health issues, unfortunately. And so I used that to kind of start changing my life around the end of 2019 is when I made the decision to just take a different route. And so I started to get more into wellness techniques and just different ways that I could just create a better life for myself. And so I started that journey at the end of 2019 and transitioned to the wellness side on becoming a meditation and yoga teacher. And so my why for doing it is not just about me and myself and kind of healing my own self, because I dealt with a lot of the physical manifestations of my stress, but I do have a lot of people that I love and care about in my life that have dealt with more serious circumstances relating to stress, like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And I think that some of those things start off as lesser issues and then they grow and can become bigger issues if they aren't dealt with over time. So I want to try to help and support people earlier on to try and help prevent some of those more serious mental health issues. So I quickly want to learn a little bit about you guys. So if there's something you could share that's a good podcast or book that you're into right now that you could share with the group of what you're listening to that's like wellness centered or just good for everyone to know about. So right now, one of the books that I'm reading, it's called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. So Brené Brown books are great if you haven't read any of them, but I've read it before, but usually when you're in kind of a different stage of life and you go back and read that book, it's like a completely different book. And so now that I have started my own business, everyone knows that I am a recovering perfectionist, but that can hinder you. So reading the book, The Gifts of Imperfection, has been good for this stage of life that I'm in right now. So if you guys have any, please share them in the chat. And there's also a place where you can share any questions as I'm going through. It's the little question box, so you can put any questions in there as I'm going through. All right, so I'm going to start with a little bit of education because I like to help people understand why they're doing something and not just kind of jump into it, because I think it sticks a little bit better if you can understand the why behind what you're doing. And so starting with just what meditation is, because I think a lot of people have a lot of preconceived notions about what meditation is. And so meditation is really just simply observational focus of your attention. That's really all it is. So of course, there's more complex ways to do it, but really it's just focusing your thoughts and attention. So I just shared a post about what the benefits are to meditation. So there's 5 top benefits. And so number 1, which is what we're going to be focusing on today, is reducing stress. So brain studies of regular meditators have revealed that they have lowered their cortisol level in their brains, which explains their resilience and insightful nature. If you don't know what cortisol is or what it does, I'm going to cover that also. It enhances empathy. So the deep state of flow makes us more affectionate and amicable as a person. So some people could use a little bit more empathy in the world. And it increases attention. So mindful awareness comes naturally to us when we meditate. It also improves our cognition. So mindful meditation practices improve the brain's problem solving and decision making strategies. So I'm actually talking to a group next month. It's at a wellness event for seniors, ages 55 plus, and I'm going to be talking about meditation and memory, like how it can help with your memory. And then the fifth one is it promotes emotional health. So meditation provides time and space to dedicate to processing your emotions. So you have your emotions for a reason. So it can help you diminish the feelings of anger and frustration. So don't wish the anger wasn't there, just have better tools for processing it. And so we're also going to run through the definition of what stress is, because people probably have a lot of thoughts about what stress is, but what is the actual definition? So it is a state of mental or emotional strain resulting in physical, emotional, and intellectual responses. So emphasis on the physical. All right, so this is where I'm going to get a little medical. And so my dad wanted me to be a doctor, so he would be proud of this part. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the physical and the medical side. So did you guys know that 75 to 90% of doctors' office visits are for stress-related ailments and issues? 75 to 90%, all stress-related. So stress can play a part in problems such as headaches, high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, skin issues, asthma, arthritis, depression, anxiety. All of that can be attributed to stress. So it's a big problem that we all need to pay attention to. So what are the stress hormones and what do they do? Because actually knowing this information helped me a lot. And so everyone says, oh, stress is a silent killer, stress is a silent killer. But what does that mean? What is it actually doing? And so there's three stress hormones I'm going to cover today. So one of them is cortisol. So what does cortisol do? It increases sugar, the glucose in your bloodstream, and it enhances your brain's use of glucose and increases the availability of the substances that repair those tissues. So cortisol, it goes up when we perceive danger or a threat, and it causes symptoms that we associate with fight or flight, which is basically like your blood pressure goes up. Me too, Anne. Your heart rate goes up, you start having tension in your muscles, your digestive system starts having issues, resulting in you potentially having nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. So why is that a big deal? Because I've had some urgent care visits myself, and I have learned way more than I needed to know in this area. So when that happens and you're losing your electrolytes, so that can cause you to have all kinds of other issues. So I had gone and taken some labs, and I had low potassium, which is actually called hypokalemia. Didn't even know that was a thing, didn't know it was a big deal to have low potassium. Like everybody's like, eat more bananas, but I actually don't like bananas, but trying to figure out how to get potassium other ways. But potassium regulates your heartbeat. So if you have too little or too high of potassium, that means that can affect how your heart beats. So it's really important to pay attention to those things. And then the second one is adrenaline. So who here considers themselves an adrenaline junkie? Who likes all the, the scary rides and like horror movies and all of those things? So let me know if you're one of those people that are adrenaline junkies. So I look like I'm not super adventurous, but I actually do like some adventurous things, like keeping it safe to a point. I've done a hot air balloon, which is like basically as far as I would go. Okay. So what adrenaline is so it's actually a hormone in your adrenal glands. And so that helps you prepare for, hey, Bobby, I see that you joined. Awesome. So we're talking about right now, we're talking about what the stress hormones are. So we covered cortisol and what cortisol is, because I want to educate people before we start on what exactly is happening in the body. And then we have adrenaline. And so adrenaline is a hormone in your adrenal glands that helps you prepare for stressful or dangerous situations. So when you have an adrenaline rush, that's the name for the quick release of the adrenaline into your bloodstreams. So this is getting your body ready for a fight or flight response, but it can also make you have heart palpitations. So a couple of years ago, I was dealing with a situation where I was having heart palpitations and things of that nature. And the cardiologist told me I was suffering from an excess of adrenaline. So he said, I can give you an adrenaline blocker, or you can change your lifestyle. And I was like, well, okay, so not too often doctors tell you that, where they don't immediately prescribe you medication, but they tell you to change your lifestyle. So that always stuck out to me that he told me that. So that was one of the things that made me start deciding to make some lifestyle changes. And then you have noradrenaline. So that also increases your blood pressure as well. So basically an excess of all of these different chemicals in your bloodstream can lead to anxiety, which if you joined on Monday when we talked about anxiety, anxiety to me is just information, the body trying to tell you something that you need to pay attention to, and can cause obesity. When you have lower levels of these chemicals, it can cause depression or lead to depression, just one of the things. So I like to tell people this because I want them to pay attention to just everything that's going on in their body, and all the messages that your body is trying to give you. So just going back to talking about the fight or flight response that you're activating, you're actually activating your body's sympathetic nervous system, which triggers all the release of the chemicals that I just mentioned. But really, so what meditation and yoga can help you do, it can help your body activate your rest and digest response, which is activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So that will cause your heart rate to slow down, your blood pressure to be lowered. It improves your concentration and your mood. It will help you with your sleep, will reduce your fatigue and tiredness and all of that. So this is basically building your resilience to lifestyle stress, which a ton of people have. So now I'd like to go into my SOULESTA soul meditation method. So there's variations of it depending on what the focus is. And so since today we're focusing on stress, so we're going to start with the S, which I always start with your senses, because starting with your senses is really the quickest way to get kind of out of spiraling outward and come back inward. And so there are many different grounding techniques that you can try, but we'll start with just doing some breathing exercises. And so when you do breathing exercises, really this signals to the body that you're safe enough to be present, because when you're anxious or scared or stressed, a lot of times you don't notice it, but you might be kind of breathing short and not taking in enough oxygen to your body. So we're actually going to start in a chair yoga position, because I like to do things that you can do anywhere, any place. That's what I like to teach on. And so you're actually just going to, sit straight up and have good posture in your chair, and make sure your feet are planted firmly on the ground. And then your hands, you're just going to let your hands kind of hang down on either side of your legs. And so just kind of like have them hang loose. And so this is the chair version of Savasana. So if you've ever been to a yoga class, a lot of people like the Savasana, which is like they're laying with their hands flat, on their backs. And so that's like the most relaxing part of a yoga class, actually. But this is the version that you can do sitting in the chair. And so this is a position of surrenders, because you are surrendering control, because a lot of times stress comes from not having control over a situation. So right now you're just going to focus on releasing your control and easing your stress. So just doing this move alone and just focusing on your breathing can help you. Just a simple move you can do. But now we're going to focus on the senses. And so take your first breath in, so you don't have to close your eyes. You can, or you don't have to, whatever your preference is, or you can lower your eyes if that's your preference. So take your deep breath and focus on something that you can see. And then take another deep breath and focus on something that you can feel. Then take another deep breath in and out and focus on something that you can hear. And then you're going to take another deep breath and focus on something that you can smell. And then the last deep breath is focusing on something that you can taste or something you love the taste of. So this is also helpful if you're having anxiety about anything like specific that's going on, and it kind of helps you focus on your body and your senses and keeps you from kind of spiraling out and thinking about a lot of other things that might be going on. And then another breath exercise that you can do is an infinity breathing exercise. So I like the infinity breathing exercise because that is part of the branding for SOULESTA. And so I think it also represents that there's a lot more to life than the situation that you're dealing in the moment. So this exercise is just envisioning the infinity symbol in your mind. And so starting at the center point and then doing equal inhales and exhales on either side. So you start in the middle, and then you just imagine as you're taking your breath in that you're going around the left side of the loop and then circling back as you exhale to the right side of the loop. And you can continue doing this, and this helps me when I have a lot of thoughts when I'm going to sleep at night. I actually imagine doing this infinity exercise, and it definitely helps me kind of calm all of my thoughts. And then next, we're going to talk about how to do a body scan. So I'm going to be doing body scans that are pre-recorded that you can listen to, but this will just give you the information about what it is, because it helps me too with sleep. But just starting from your feet, or you can start from the head down, but I typically start from my feet and go up. Just noticing any sensations that are going on throughout your body. This just gives you a chance to kind of take note of anything going on in your body and just how are you feeling, because if you feel off or if there's anything that doesn't feel right, but sometimes there's so many distractions, you're not really taking the time to notice if there's any new pains or new things that are going on. And so you just start from the bottom up, and you're just kind of just considering what's going on, what's coming up for you as you're going up through the body. But I like to, for focusing on stress, also focus on the heart, because a lot of times when you're stressed, it can cause you to have heart palpitations and high blood pressure and all these issues with the heart. So pay attention to if there's different sounds, or if you feel like your heart is beating abnormally, or if you're having palpitations and your heart feels like it's beating out of your chest at any time. And I used to notice I used to have heart palpitations when I got into bed at night. And I used to think like it was something related to going to sleep. But then I realized that was the only time of the day that I didn't have all these other distractions. And it was probably happening throughout the day, but I didn't know that because I wasn't, that was the time that I actually got quiet enough to hear what was going on and like actually listen to my body. And then another thing as you're going up is to relax the tension in your face. So this is really important because sometimes we don't even notice how much tension we're carrying in our face. And so just even from like your forehead, sometimes people have wrinkles in their forehead. It's like you're sometimes carrying tension there and you don't even know. And then that can cause stress on the body also. So make sure that you are releasing that tension, not straining your eyes. This is something I'm mindful of too, that sometimes you'll be squinting or something and you're not even paying attention that you're doing those things. And unclenching your jaw, coming from someone who was recently diagnosed with TMJ that has caused a whole health of other health-related challenges, make sure that you are not tensing your jaw. And this was something that I had to be conscious of, even while going to sleep, because you can do it and you're not even paying attention to the fact that you're doing it. And while you're awake, like not clenching down in your teeth and making sure that during the day that your teeth aren't touching, because that will create tension in your jaw. And there is a nerve that is here close to your jawline that, like I said, I'm learning this all now, just now, having gone through this experience, that is really connected all throughout your body and can cause just so many different challenges just from holding tension here. So I just like to tell people about that because that's something that I have learned recently. And so also remember that nature is a healer. So there was a recent study that was done that showed that people are 20% more likely to pass away in a hospital room that doesn't have a window. So nature definitely has an impact on our health. So whether it's, getting out and getting your vitamin D, that's important. And so sometimes when you're working from home, like I'm working from home, there might be times or days where, if I've got my groceries, I don't have a reason to get out of the house. But it's important to, find ways to get out and connect with nature. So if you don't leave, so are there ways that you can listen to nature sounds or do a visualization? So some of the meditations that I do, I might take you through a visualization of, a nature experience. And that also helps bring you down. And so, oh, sorry, someone just joined on Zoom. Oh, hey, Bree, sorry, we've got Zoom and the live here. So we're just going through nature being one of our biggest healers as well. And then the O stands for observe. So observe your thoughts and emotions that come through. But I like to say most importantly, observe without judgment. So we're human beings having a human experience. So if you have feelings and things that come up, try not to be judgmental, but just pay attention to what's coming up and then what you need to do to process those emotions. And also know that you are not your thoughts. So sometimes you have a lot of thoughts come up and you're like, where is all of that coming from? So you, the soul, the essence of you, are the observer of the thoughts and not necessarily always the one bringing the thoughts, if that makes sense. And then the U stands for using facts. And I like to use facts because this was something that someone helped me with, because sometimes when you get into these spirals of a lot of different things going on, and these what ifs and what if that and all of these different things, use facts because that will help you ground into reality of what's actually going on. So what do you know to be true? So I like to use affirmations. And so one of the affirmations I like to use is, this too shall pass. Super simple. So doesn't it always, like, if you look back on other things that you've been through that you thought were really hard and just like almost impossible, and you got through them, and you have to know that nothing lasts forever, whether it's good times, bad times, we're always kind of fluctuating through different seasons. And so that acceptance has helped me, where I'm like, you know what, this is just the season for this. And one day things will be up and then they'll go back down again. And so that acceptance of that sometimes things are just the way they are helps me not to increase my own suffering in dealing with different situations. Another affirmation to tell yourselves, that kind of goes with the other one, is that I survived hard things before and can do it again. So if you brought yourself through anything, which most of us have, you can do it again. So that is just a affirmation to tell yourself when you're dealing with tough situations. Another one I like is that I will not focus on things I can't control. So if it's out of your hands, it should be out of your mind. So if you're stressing about, certain situations and things that other people have done and things that aren't really in your control, you need to just move forward and let it go. So I told a story the other day about how during COVID, my dad went to the hospital. And I was panicking because I couldn't, get to the hospital. I'm normally always there to give him, or, kind of be the liaison between him and the doctors. And I was starting to panic, thinking about not being able to be there. And so, but then I kind of realized what I was doing. And I said, you know what? Can I control the fact that my dad is in the hospital? No. Can I control the fact that COVID is going on, so the rules have changed? No. So what is me being stressed about it going to change about the situation? Nothing. All it's doing, going back to what I went over earlier, it's actually just harming me and producing all these chemicals in my body, and is more hurtful to me than helpful. So sometimes you have to just realize you can't control everything, and just let it go and realize the harm that it's doing to you. And then another affirmation I have is, I trust myself. Do you trust yourself to handle the situations that you are going through? So control issues, because you hear people say all the time, I'm a control freak, I'm a control freak. But at the root of that, control issues are based out of a lack of trust. So either you don't trust other people when you think about it, or you don't trust yourself, but you can't control other people. So you need to focus on, do you trust yourself? And so that is another affirmation that I like to do. And lastly, the L. So this is in the soul meditation method. The L stands for 2 L's, which are love and let go. So love for yourself and love for others and compassion for others, because I try to think about just, whenever there are different stressful situations going on, I always also try to have compassion for the other person, because when you think about it, sometimes people don't know any better, or sometimes they are acting out for different things that happen to them. Not to say that it's an excuse. It's never an excuse in a lot of situations, but you can still have compassion for those people. And as I've learned, that a lot of us are we're adults, but we're also acting out our childhood issues still too as adults. So sometimes you're getting that wounded child when someone reacts to something and all of that, and you're not really getting the adult version of them. So I try to keep that in mind for other people, but for myself also. So when I'm having just different thoughts, I talked about this yesterday with the self-love meditation, just because you're doing yoga and meditation, that doesn't mean you're not going to have disappointments that come up, or you're never going to be stressed again and you're just going to be perfect. These are tools for your toolkit for for you to process things as they come up. Not that things are never going to come up. This is for you to be able to process it as it comes up. So just make sure that you are giving yourself grace along the way, because this doesn't mean that you're never going to, stress yourself out and, never going to have that again, but then you have tools to bring yourself back, basically. And one other thing that someone told me recently, that stress is self-induced and therefore a choice. And at first I thought it was kind of harsh, but then I thought about it and I was like, yeah, well, I guess, you have control over yourself. So, no one is making you be stressed about a situation. Like, you have the power to be able to say, hey, this is a part of the human experience. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. What can I do to, deal with the issue in the most peaceful way possible? You have that power to be able to make those decisions. So you can just, use the information to be able to make better choices. And so the fact that you're here shows that you are interested in making those better choices. So I commend you all. And then also practicing, this all ties in together, non-attachment. So I talk about this a lot, but that we're connected to everything because we're all connected to each other. But also at the same time being attached to nothing. So you can't be attached to what the outcome of something is. So even in business, I'll give a business example. So even in business, you can say like, okay, well, or even in work, it's like you're doing the best that you can, and you put out your offering or you do that thing or whatever it is that you're working on. You can't control how people receive it, how it's received. Like, you don't have control over that. All you have control over is yourself and how you show up in the things that you do. So that's why it's just important to focus on self and not the other things that you can't control. And then another thing that's helpful is also focusing on presence. So another thing that brings stress is worrying about, things from the past and things that may happen, that may never happen, and things about the future. And what if this person says this? And what if that person? And what if, like all day long. But one of my favorite books that I love to recommend every time, if you guys haven't read it, there's also a podcast on this book, and it is called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And so he was featured on Oprah's show a while back when she was still doing the Oprah show, or it might have been one of her Super Soul episodes, but they have a podcast that goes through the chapters of the book also. But the kind of short essence of what he talks about that has been so helpful for me is that the only thing that exists is now. So the past does not exist anymore. Like, it's only a thought in your mind. The future also doesn't exist. It's only a thought in your mind. It's not actually happening. And so the only thing you have is now. So, and when the future comes and when you get to the future, it will be now, and you will make decisions in that moment when it is the now. So presence, focusing just on right now, it has been so helpful for me. And I like to talk about how I use this when I was thinking about buying my house. Coming from an apartment, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what happens if someone breaks in and something happens and all of this stuff, and you start getting all anxious and stressed about something that may never happen. And then if it does happen, you don't know where you're going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be downstairs. I don't know if I'm going to be upstairs. Well, will I even be home? And, been in my house 2 years and nothing has ever happened, but stressing about it is going to just cause me more issues and challenges. So all I can do is focus on, hey, I'm at home. Am I safe in this moment right now? Yes. Have I prepared myself enough? So guess what? I did have to prepare myself to help also mitigate that anxiety. So I figured out, I was like, hey, how am I had to come up with a plan. If something actually did happen, how would I get out of my bedroom? Okay, like, what would happen? And so preparation can also help relieve stress. So if you know that you're prepared as much as possible, that can help relieve your stress as well. But then at the end of the day, you just need to, let go of anything that isn't serving you. And sometimes you also need better boundaries to control your stress. So that's what I'll be talking about on Friday, because I had to work really hard to set boundaries in many different areas of my life, from work to friendships to, all different types of relationships. And so, that can also be contributing to your stress if you are not putting up the proper boundaries in place. And so, lastly, I just want to also share, I like to share that my daily routine of how things that I've put in place just to, help me deal with stress. Because like I said, things continue to come up, but, I had to really do a lot of work to, so I don't continue to have a lot of health issues, to try to figure out how can I manage my stress. So from the start of the day, like I think it matters how you start your day. And so the way that I start my day now, and I've been doing it for a while now, is I do not look at any notifications, missed phone calls, text messages, email, Instagram notifications, like no type of notification from the outside world. I do not look at it until after I have breakfast. And so I do that because I used to get up and like the first thing I would do is look at my email. And I would notice that I started waking up with heart palpitations, and I would take my heart rate in the morning and it would be over 100. And I'm like, your heart rate resting is supposed to be like between 60 and 70. So to have your heart rate waking up to be over 100 is just not good. And so that was one of the big things that big changes that I made, is that I need to make sure that I'm good first and that I am nourished first before I jump into what everybody else has going on. Because you can get a text message, anything that can take your day into a completely different path. And so I like to start with, making sure that I've woken up and done my stretches in the morning. And I have a canvas on my bedroom wall that talks about, basically that each day is new and, make this one count. And I do stretching and do like a rising meditation. And I don't always close my eyes, but it's like I'm just stretching my body, moving my body wherever feels comfortable, not like anything specific, just whatever I feel like to be in flow with that morning. And I, meditate on what do I need that day. And some days I'm like, okay, I have a lot of projects going on, so I want to meditate on, like, I need more focus for today, or I have this going on, or, something might have happened with someone and I'm like, more compassion, more love. What do I need for that day? And of course, the day might take you all in different directions, but at least you set your intention at the start of the day. And then as I go throughout, if I'm at home, if I'm working from home, I have like in my Zen dens, I don't watch a lot of TV, so I don't know like all the shows that are out right now. I don't watch too much TV, but I will put on nature music. I could just put it on YouTube and screen it on the TV or something like that. And while I'm eating lunch, because sometimes I might be working on something for a client, and then I'm like there's so many details, and I'm like, no, you got to walk away and decompress during lunchtime. And so I kind of take a little 30-minute break, eat my lunch, and I'm listening to like waterfalls or like meditation music and take a break. So that helps me in the midday. And then I noticed when I started working for myself that I didn't have great boundaries at all. And because I was doing something that I like to do, I would work all throughout the night, like all night. And I would never have separation and wouldn't, basically stop. So now I've used sunset as that's like my trigger of like when the sun is setting and the day is transitioning, I need to be transitioning. So that has been super helpful for me, that to start taking walks every day, sunset walks, and I do a walking meditation. And so that is something that I want people to embrace more of. Because someone asked me the other day, they're like, is that literally walking with your eyes closed? And I'm like, no. So I kind of want to get people more comfortable with the fact that you don't have to have your eyes closed to be meditating. There's lots of different forms of movement meditation. Um, and so that meditation actually involves, I like to say it's like literally stopping and smelling the roses. So you are paying attention to what, you're not like listening to something random, you're actually being present with just you and paying attention to the things that you're seeing. Like, are there people playing and having a good time? Like one of the parks that I go to, there's always these kids playing soccer. And so I'm just like, oh, look at them, like already always having a good time playing together. Or, this girl I always see who walks her dog and people always stop to pick up the dog. And I'm just kind of like, oh, like those are, just cute things that are happening, like as you're taking a walk and taking it all in, and just being present and, just focusing on your senses. And so that can be a meditative experience. And I had this post yesterday about whether people think cleaning is a meditative experience. So I don't know about y'all, but I was really surprised that the poll came back saying that most people felt like cleaning was a meditative experience. I was really surprised by that. I was like, who are these people? Because I hate cleaning. I was like, I like organizing things because I feel like everything has a home, but cleaning is just not my thing. But anyway, but it can be for some people a therapeutic experience. So same with cooking. So cooking can also be a meditative and, experience. And so you're focusing on being present and, gratitude for the ingredients and how you're going to nourish your body and all of those things. So all of that can be forms of meditation. And then lastly, my shower meditation I like to talk about. And so I do shower meditation every night. And so it's like I decompress from the day and I take everything that has happened from the day and I kind of like literally visualize washing it all the way and just releasing, if the day didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, I'm like, okay, tomorrow is a new day, but I'm not carrying it with me tonight. And so that has made a huge difference on my sleep. Doing the shower meditation, hello, who just joined. And that has been interesting to people because it's just a different concept to think about. But so when I say that I meditate every day, I'm not always sitting with my, in fact, never am I sitting with my legs crossed and in silence, meditating in that way. And so I met someone recently who was like, oh yeah, I tried meditation, but because I have so much anxiety, I can't sit still. And I'm like, well, it's not always sitting still. So it's really just taking the time to focus your attention. And so, so those are all the different ways that I like to share. And so of all of the things that I covered, so are there any tools that you learned something new that you guys might try in the future? So I know someone watched last night the self-love replay, because you can watch the replays on the SOULESTA Living page, and they were like, oh, I'm gonna try, yes, talking about all the different types of meditation. So someone from yesterday said they're gonna try the shower meditation, and they were gonna try it last night. And so I thought that was awesome. Okay, shower meditation is probably something we'll try. Yes, I'm trying to make shower meditation a thing. So I hope more people try it because it, like I said, it helped me to sleep because I didn't have a million thoughts as soon as I got in the bed. I kind of decompressed and thought about the day while I was in the shower. So that kind of, and I don't listen. I know some people listen to music and all of that different stuff. And so usually I'll be listening to podcasts throughout the day, but I stop them when I get in the shower because I'm like, shower time is me time and I need to process and process all my thoughts from the day.